Do you ever have one of those days where you wonder if you're ever going to get everything done that you need to get done? Yeah, that has been my not only day, but it seems like week this week. My sewing machine is in the shop, and it's been there for over a week. When I called to find out about it, I was told they might not get to it for another week or so. And it's a minor repair that needs to be fixed, but it does need oiling and cleaning too. So, it just seems like it's one thing after another. I do have another machine that I use, but it doesn't have all the bells and whistles, so it's kind of a pain in the butt to have to use. All right, I am continuing to work on my crochet project. Hope you will join me for that. But yeah, this week has had some crazy things. We had Christy Gnome that had her purse stolen with all of her ID, passport, her Department of Homeland Security badge and all that nonsense, plus a lot of money was stolen. I have a question. She does have Secret Service with her. What were they doing? What were they doing in order for someone to steal that? And supposedly it was at her feet under the table. How does someone get that away from you? Now, I know for me, many times when I'm in a restaurant, I may put my purse over my foot. Right next to my feet. But I generally have it between both of my feet, behind my feet. Between my feet and the table or whatever. And I don't remember, Thomas and I were in Capitol Burger one time, but I honestly can't remember the layout of it. But you would think that Secret Service there, that they would see someone doing something around her feet. Taking her bag, they might notice it, but apparently they're blind, so. And I don't question what she had in her purse, the amount of money. Some of those things are expensive. She may have been paying for family members to eat there. And if you've eaten anywhere in Washington, D.C., it's outrageous, the amount that they charge. But so if she was treating family to meal, that kind of thing, I can understand why she had so much cash on her. But I don't, the thing that kind of makes me wonder is the passport. But I guess, with her job, she probably never knows when she has to take off. Go to another country or fly or whatever. I don't know. But I'm sure there'll be some repercussions there for Secret Service. And Capitol Burger, I believe, has video constantly running just because of the clientele that they have in there. So I'm sure they know exactly who did it. But I do find all of this nonsense that's going on seems to be directed at anybody that is a Republican. And I think Democrats have a lot to account for that. I think they're really responsible for a lot of the angst and the violence that we see, and just quite honestly, some of the stupidity out there. I mean, they encourage it. They call for it. And I just think it's sad. I think I heard where the Pope is going to be buried Saturday. Of course, then all the popes, the wannabe popes will be convening to determine the next pope. And we'll be waiting for that sign of white smoke. I don't know if any of you have watched Glenn Beck's. He did this small amount of a broadcast that he's allowed out to the public, because a lot of things that you do there at the Blaze is a paid subscription. But part of it was when he was accounting the time that they went to the Vatican, and they were in the archives, and all the people they encountered who had never been to the archives, and you would think would be, like the main museum of the Vatican. But he had recounted this story of how, and basically what it was is he felt like it was a very dark, deep state that surrounded the Vatican. And said he was in the presence enjoying a meal with some of the other, cardinals and all that kind of thing. And he said you could sense that they're very godly men, and, just the amount of warmth and love that you felt in there. And that all of a sudden there was one person that entered. And I think it was he talking about Pope Benedict, who stepped down, resigned, but continued to work in the background around there. But that they felt that he had always felt that the reason that he had stepped down was because there was something very deep state about the Vatican. And he said with Pope Francis, you saw a lot of that come out, like climate change and just wokeness out of this Pope. And he said that while they were sitting there and they were talking, this gentleman entered the room, and all of a sudden the room got cold. And he kind of made this shudder, and one of the gentlemen at the table with him had said, "You felt that?" And he said, "Yeah, I don't think this guy is a good guy." And supposedly this certain person was behind getting Pope Francis into that position where he was at. And basically they kind of suggested that he controls the Vatican and what goes on out of there. So I guess we'll see, right, what happens next few days, next few weeks. Because, sometimes it takes them a long time to decide. Sometimes all we get is a lot of black smoke till we actually get the white smoke. That means they've chosen a new pope. So I don't know. Should be interesting to see who comes up next. But I always thought that was interesting, seeing that little bit and hearing that, and thought, wow, that's an interesting thing. I don't know if you've ever been in a place where you felt that change in atmosphere when someone enters the room, but it's quite eye-opening because everybody seems to feel it for the most part. All right, I'm going to stop here. You know, I've always done in the past things that you can get after different holidays that are good for Operation Christmas Child. Of course, after Easter, things are 50% off. There are Easter pencils that are good objects to get. There are a lot of things like these. Now, these are just some of those paddle balls. And of course, it's got the bunny on it. But these are always good ideas to pick up. And these, I think they were $1 originally. So being 50% off, they were like 50 cents each. So always grab a couple, you know, when I'm in those kind of places for those kind of sales, just because it's not a bad idea to throw into a box to make that box a little bit more fun. And who doesn't want a paddle ball to drive you nuts, right? I don't know if you're like me when I was a kid. Paddle balls drove me nuts. I never could get the stupid thing to hit the ball. And I always blame that on the fact that I'm basically pretty blind without my glasses anyway. But I thought this toy was kind of interesting. This is I'll get it out. This is what is called a popper ball. And this is the Easter set. And they've got a couple of big balls, and then you've got a smaller duck as well with the balls. But essentially, the ball goes in the duck's mouth. You squeeze it, and the ball goes flying across the room. That's always great fun. So, great fun for adults too. So yeah, those are some quick, easy things you can pick up fairly cheap. Those were $1.50, so that's 75 cents for each little group. And what I will do is I will put those balls together in a small, probably a baggie, along with the little toy. So that way they know what goes with what. And that'll be a great little fun toy for a kid to play with. And of course, it's just like a little rubber ducky. Everybody needs a rubber ducky, don't they? Gotta pick the ball up, so because Ronan's trying to take off with it. He thinks every toy is his. Let me tell you. This cat lately has been a hoot. I think I told you about the day he stepped on the dishwasher door and scared himself and shot straight up. He's also been doing this thing where in one of my closets I have totes that are under some of where the clothing is. And Ronan has been very industrious in sleeping on top of those totes. There are times he goes missing and I can't find him. Well, I found out his hiding place, so now I know he's under those totes. Crazy cat. I don't know if you can hear him meow. He's been doing a whole lot more meowing too. He's become a little bit more vocal. And of course, he's still continuing to get up in bed and cuddle with me, which I find hilarious. And these two, they have been what I think is funny is most of the time during the day, they could care less what I'm doing, where I'm at. But for some reason, when I get into that sewing room, these two become lost in this house. Especially Izzy. She walks around, I can hear her, walking around with that little, and yes, she's got her little stuffed toy in her mouth. Just mewling, looking, calling. And I don't know why she does that. But I do find it funny. Because she brings in her stuffed toy and lays it up my feet. Yep, those cats are nuts. And of course, now that all the pollen is starting to pop out, my eyes and my nose are very aware of it. And I think, okay, here we go, the season of whining. First season of whining is the snow and the cold. Second is the sneezing and the pollen. And I have to tell you, these cats, I think what's funny is when I go to open up a can of chicken to make some chicken salad, these guys automatically think that I'm opening up a can of cat food. And they're all over the place, trying to figure out how to get some of it. And I'm like, it's canned human food. It's not canned cat food. And I don't give them canned cat food every day. Generally give it to them maybe once a week, twice a week. Depending, because a normal size, not the little cans of cat food, but the regular size of canned cat food, they'll only eat half of it between the two of them at a sitting, so that's why they get it twice a week. Get half of it the first part of the week, second half the second half of the week. And of course they always have dry food available. Fresh water when they're not dumping it. I've noticed lately there are a lot of bucket hat patterns that are coming out. I think I got this morning the Yarnspirations email, and what I thought was interesting is they had a lot of different like market bags, tote bags to crochet, that kind of thing. They had a couple that look like they incorporate material as well as the mesh part of the bag. And I thought, that's really nice. That's great to see. Gives me some idea to use up some of that cotton yarn with some of the fabric. Create a couple of market bags that way. So that's been rather fun. I have been debating about whether to start sharing some of the things on TikTok as far as some of the bags I make, some of those kind of things. I did go ahead and apply to become a seller, was approved, but now I'm debating on whether I want to do that or not. I think it would open up a different type of audience. So, might do that. The only problem I think is my TikTok is under scraptasticyarns. It might be confusing for some, but I'm not going to worry about it. because I do provide in my profile a link to my link tree so that they can, find it that way. Difference in the shop. And I'm not real sure why I decided to name it Jane Wynn's Designs. I think that was back when I was doing more beading and jewelry. I used to do a lot of crocheting with beads. So I was creating a lot of different necklaces, bracelets using crochet ropes with beads and different bead findings to create different types of necklaces, statements, pieces, whatever you want to call it. And I think I just never did change it over. Figured that was easier. And many of those things were just, adding the different components of bead crochet at the time. So kind of changed over to mostly a sewing based business, and I do enjoy that part of it. I do enjoy sewing. I am considering putting up just small baby quilts, those kind of things. Haven't really decided. Don't have a whole lot of sources for different baby fabrics because I used to use mostly Joann's. There's another online store that I used to use, and of course Cheryl Boltz used to do a lot of textile fabrics. Now she's kind of gone the way of, I think, leather and faux leathers, and that's a little bit of a different animal, although I do enjoy seeing what she has to offer, those kind of things. But I do miss the different beautiful textiles you used to be able to get through Cheryl. But I do have a couple of other online sources that I've used and could use, and also have different types of baby fabrics and things. But Joann's was always a good place to be able to find some decent minky that you could actually touch and feel. That's the only bad part about not having a store that sells it. You can't always feel it. And if you're going to use minky and baby products, it's a good idea to be able to feel it. Although I saw where someone said ask for one of their sample packs. And generally you can feel the different brands that they use and see what types of minky that they do use. So that's a thought too. I wish you could see Ronan. He's sitting by the front door, looking up under the curtains. I don't know what he thinks he sees, or what he wants to see, but he cracks me up when he does that. It's like he's expecting the door to open. Or maybe he senses the robins out there. I haven't looked to see if the robins have built another nest or not. They probably have. They do. They've done it. They did it the year that I moved in. They did it the year last year. So I wouldn't imagine they haven't done it this year. And no, I don't come in by my front door. Come in through the garage entrance. You know? Very rarely do I come in the front door. When I'm coming in and out of the front door, generally it's because I've been weed eating or cutting back different things or working on some of the plants I have out there. Normally not because I'm coming in that way. A little bit of a difference, right? So what are you working on today? You still working on what you started out earlier this week, or have you moved on to something else? What are your plans for the week? I know this week is pretty busy. I'm filming this Tuesday evening. It'll go up Wednesday. So today, on this Wednesday, I would have had an appointment with the lawyer first thing in the morning. I would have also had a Christian women's luncheon, which I also help set up. And that generally takes me from 10 to about 2 o'clock each day. And then I go home, rest up for a little bit. Then I have Awana. So by the time you're watching this, I'm exhausted. Luckily, today is not too bad. So, and as you can see, sniffles are coming. All right, I need to pause you a moment because I'm about to run out of time. So I have a question. Have any of you made any of the sun hats or bucket hats? Do you enjoy making bucket hats? I have to tell you, back in my teens, I used to wear hats all the time, all kinds of hats. Bucket hats, sun hats, baseball hats, you name it. Also had a hat that I just wore because I liked it. Thomas and I, of course, have a set of hats that we used to wear all the time. I bought a hat for the cruise, have worn it twice, and it is a sun hat. But I'm like, I don't know why I don't wear it more often, to be honest. Especially when I'm out there working on those weeds and weed eating, that kind of thing. Do many of you like making like garden flags, things like that, wall hangings? Are any of you interested in that kind of thing? I know I used to make wall hangings, as in filet crochet, with thread many years ago. It's been years since I've worked with thread. Not even sure I could work with thread again. I'm sure I could eventually, but it's just the idea of how thin it is, you know. But I used to enjoy a lot of thread work, making doilies and all kinds of things like that. Do you have any summer plans? Any of you making a crocheted bikini? I follow a couple gals on YouTube that they always come up with different bikini tops, halter tops that they crochet. And I'm like, I don't know that I could stand that on my body unless it was lined with a soft fabric. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Have you ever crocheted a top out of thread and enjoyed wearing it? I do know that we can make them out of wool and cottons and cotton blends and even acrylic. But I'm just curious. Inquiring minds want to know. And I know a couple of you had emailed me about automatic payments because I talked about the crochet magazine, Crochet World, and I had gotten, a magazine last time this spring, and supposedly spring 2025 was the end of it. And some of you talked about normally, lots of times they do an automatic renewal where they just either debit or credit your credit card, debit card. And I thank you for that, but I had already canceled that prior to the spring issue. I don't know why I feel like I need to have different magazines, whatever, for crochet, because I don't think I've ever made anything out of them, to be honest. I have a whole series of crochet books. I mean, it is a complete series of crochet books where each month I would get this packet and these big binders. And they're just full of patterns and all kinds of things. I have not made a single thing out of them. Now, I did make, at one time, a scarecrow out of the Crochet World magazine, probably in the 80s, maybe 90s. But I think that's the only thing I made. Everything else, has been generally something I found online that I liked and then converted it to something that I wanted to make out of it, that kind of thing. So, there's that, right? And I think Jeannie off the hook. I think last time I think she just did a video about it, about the new newspaper. I'm not sure who it's by, about crochet and knit news or something like that. Have any of you subscribed to that? What are your thoughts about that? I think they do give you an offer to be able to get a free sample of it, something like that. My battery is about to die, so I need to change the battery. And this is what I think is funny. Earlier, when I started filming, the battery died, and I changed the battery. And normally I can get quite a bit of filming time before it's time to change that battery. Not today, not that long. So, that must mean that the batteries are about to go bad. Time to replace the camera batteries. I find that happens quite often, and oh well, what are you gonna do? It's kind of like the filter for the refrigerator. That's got to be changed every 6 months too. So, I guess the days of wanting things to last forever are over, aren't they? But anyway, I was just curious if you have tried that newsletter magazine out. It's supposed to be like a newspaper. I'm sure that helps with the cost of it. And I don't know if you guys have newspapers come to your houses anymore. In our area, now the newspaper is mailed to you. So, instead of being hand delivered to your house like the good old days. And I think that's because newspapers nowadays kind of hoping that you'll just subscribe online and it'll be less cost for them. I don't know. But have you tried that? Tried that new newsletter? Or maybe it's not a free sample. Maybe you have to pay for the postage. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it seems you get a trial issue to try it. I'm just curious if any of you have signed up for that. One of the things that I like to do at the end of the evening is watch TikTok before I go to bed, which is probably not a good idea, but I do it anyway. But I think I had noticed yesterday that Juan from Yarn Addict. Why can I not think of his name of his channel? Just Another Yarn Addict? No, that's not it. Anyway, where he had done his first TikTok video many years and was feeling a little bit uncomfortable, but I thought that was interesting. And I know that there are a lot of crocheters that do a lot of lives on TikTok, and that has always been interesting to watch. I don't always join a live on TikTok for whatever reason. Like I've said before, I'm not really that big into lives to sit and watch a live and interact, because generally if I have my YouTube channel on or someone's YouTube channel on with the live, I'm very rarely interacting. I'm sitting here crocheting or knitting. So, and I know there are a lot of people that love lives. They love the different chat and banter in between each other. But kind of like Madonna. And I don't know if you guys remember her video where she had done making fun of hosts of lives, where you constantly have to divert from what you're talking about and go into the chat and welcome people in and constantly welcome in, welcome in. It's kind of how I feel about lives, you know. I find that distracting from a live. But that's just me. And I know it's important to welcome folks in when they do come to a live, but I just don't see me doing those kinds of things. I just don't. Because generally I'm trying to focus on something. Oh, the ins and outs of the world. You kind of make us into a crazy place, don't they? I do have a few more what I call the little crossbody purses. It's not really a crossbody so much as a cell phone casual carry bag. I remember seeing somewhere where what they created was called a bum bag, and that's kind of what these remind me of. They're not meant to carry a ton of stuff. You know, there are some women that have these bags that are humongous and they carry everything in it. I have a friend who carries one of those, and in it she also has she has her Bible, she has checkbooks, you know, savings passports, I don't know what else she carries in that. And she'd probably come up with diaper wipes or antibiotic wipes for everybody that's in the room, and Tums, and you name it, makeup, all that kind of stuff. I've never been a person to carry around a big bag full of all that stuff. What I have noticed, though, is when I carry a big bag, I carry a lot of crap in it that I never use. So I'm trying to get away from that and just carry a bag that has the essentials of what I need. And most of the time when I go out, I don't take my checkbook with me, because very often nobody takes checks hardly anymore, and usually debit card is fine. Although I do have in my wallet one check, just in case I need to write a check. You know, because maybe the debit system is down and they'll take a check in place, I don't know. Rarely carry a lot of cash, so, you know, generally I want someplace for my phone. I might want Kleenexes in there. Maybe some lip balm in a small container for lotion or something like that. That's generally about it. So, yeah, I do find it interesting, the amount of stuff that some people carry in their bags, and then they complain about their backs hurting, and I'm like, that's because you're toting around luggage with you. So are you the type of person to do a full throated bag, or are you someone who might do a partial bag, or no bag at all? Do you have a girlfriend that carries around a very small change purse? Has her cards, credit cards, whatnot? I know a lot of people carry the, you know, with their cell phones that have the place for cards, slots, those kind of things. I know a lot of people that just carry that and just get by with that. But, yeah, I'm trying to get away from carrying so much stuff around with me that I don't use and don't need. I pulled out the adding machines yesterday and was kind of going over them, trying to make sure that they were lubricated and still in good working condition, make sure I didn't need to clean them or anything. And then I realized I need to reteach myself how to use it. It's been so long since I've used them. I have not touched the adding machine in 2 years. So, and sometimes we have to relearn skills, and I'm going to have to relearn that skill. So, those items should be interesting, right? See what kind of a mess they're in. Sometimes it is easy, sometimes it's not. Biggest thing I find is sometimes skip stitches. And generally that's user error, generally. So I am working on some sample yarns to get reacquainted with it. Just because. There's quite a few things I would like to do with the adding machine. You know, I think it'll help move some of this yarn out a little faster, and I probably should do that. Do you sometimes feel overwhelmed by your stash? I know I quite often do when I pull into the garage and I see all those totes full of yarn and fabric. I do at times feel overwhelmed. True confessions. All right, folks, I am going to let you go for now. I hope you guys have a great week, and I will see you again soon. Most likely for What Whip and coffee. I don't know if I have a chance to film before that, but if I do, take you along on that journey. If I don't, you'll see me then. All right, everybody, have a great week, and remember, do something kind today. See you soon. Bye.